Hi, I'm Nikki. Welcome to the Reset Journey. This is a very unplanned recording. I have no makeup on. I have been crying and crying. My eyes are puffy. Something unexpected just happened and I wanted to record. So, I have always struggled with my past. The way I deal with it is I don't. I buried it and move on with my life. It worked for a very long time. And in 2022, it was activated because somebody in a heated argument called me a certain name. And it was a name that I hadn't heard in years. And it just triggered PTSD memories, things I never thought about in almost 20 years. And I started to relive the moment. I could see it. I could envision it, the smells that were happening at that time in that area. Like, I just relived it. And I was like having panic attacks and stuff like that. So since 2022, I have been like on this journey with God, telling him, reveal to me anything that I have hidden, unforgiveness, hurts. Let me find peace in him so I can move on the correct way. Okay, I need to heal these things. I'm seeking to heal it, but whatever's too much for me, don't let me. And stuff has come up. And I have actually worked through some things and let it go where I felt it just lift off of me. Now, I've had a not like the worst childhood. There's people who've had way worse. I don't want to belittle what I've been through, but I've heard, I've read books of way worse things than what I've been through. I just didn't know that I was burying it in an unhealthy way. So, my mother was a drug addict. She put me up for adoption. My grandmother raised me. And anytime she had went to jail or did do a rehab and came out clean, she'd pick up my brothers, but never me. She always worked on her relationship with her boys. I could meet people out in public, even when she died. But even when she was alive, people would introduce me and they say, oh, this is so-and-so's daughter. And they'd say, oh, I was locked up with your mom, but she never mentioned a daughter. Are you sure? Do y'all just call her? Do y'all just say you're her daughter? And I said, no, I actually was in her womb and she had me. And they're like, wow, I was locked up with her for years and she never once mentioned you. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was like, okay. And stuff like that would bother me because I would see my cousins who had miscarriages or stillbirths. And when people would ask them, how many kids do you have? Let me tell you, those miscarriages were never forgotten. Those stillbirths were never forgotten. But me, alive and well, never got mentioned. So that used to bother me. And God revealed to me one day, it had nothing to do with you. And I don't know how to explain how I hear these things, or how, when you have a relationship with God, you can just, some type of understanding or knowing comes over you, and I don't know how to explain it. But I know he told me her not mentioning you had nothing to do with her being embarrassed of you as a person, but embarrassed of her choices of having to put you up for adoption. It hurt her to admit that she had to surrender a child. So you brought pain and something that she wasn't proud of. So she just wouldn't mention it. So she kind of just buried it and kind of was like, well, I'll just talk about my sons. But because she, put me up for adoption or allowed my grandma to adopt me and sign papers over, there was that disconnect between us. And then she didn't raise me. So she was around my brothers more. She didn't really know me. My mom never really knew me. And anyways, I used to think she just didn't love me. But it was revealed to me it wasn't you. She was just ashamed. And she'd have to explain to people that, I had to give up a child. because of the way I live, and I'm in prison, and I did all these things because of my lifestyle. I lost a kid because of it. So it just made me realize some stuff. And while my mom was alive, we did have deep conversations, and she explained to me some things of her own hurts and pains. And she never hurt me, though. She never abused me with words. There was a few things that she would say and did, but she was like not physically abusing me or anything. She was also a prostitute, so there was a lot of things that I saw when my grandma would let me visit her. I did see her prostitute, and I saw her, do drugs, and she would ask us to help her. I don't know what I can say on TikTok. I'm sorry, on YouTube. I don't know what I could say on YouTube, but yeah, she just did things you shouldn't have allowed your kids to do or help you on. And I had a lot of forgiveness for her. I found forgiveness for her. There's some pain sometimes where it hurts my feelings, but it's not captivating me. But I was also married before. I had a first marriage when I was young, in my teenage years. But I don't ever talk about this because we were young, and I just don't like talking about it. But so I do deal with sickness, and sometimes when I'm feeling really bad, like recently, I've had some really bad episodes that have been like, whoa, I need to figure something out. I need to talk to my doctor again, maybe speed up our appointment because some stuff is going on. I've had to call the ambulance. There's just some weird stuff going on. And so in my mind, I like to think about the times where there was no sickness. So this takes me back to the years of 16, 17, and 18. No sickness. A young person, free, not thinking of consequences, not thinking of what ifs, healthy, had a job, had a car. And those bring me, sometimes we get, in our teenage years or whatever decade or whatever moment made you happy, you remember that. But along with that memory, something would always interrupt it, and it'd be my ex-husband, because he was with me. Not only was he with me, I was with him all day because we worked together and we lived together. So there was no time apart other than the times where he would break up with me to go be with another woman. So he would do this back and forth thing. And in that time, though, I feel, and maybe he don't feel, but I feel he manipulated me a lot. Gaslighted me a lot. When he would cheat on me, he'd try to twist the story so that he wouldn't be caught. To just admit what he did. There was a couple of instances where he did admit things. But for the most part, he would just gaslight me, and I feel manipulated looking at the past now. Maybe he didn't realize he was doing it, but I plainly see it. And I have a lot of pain from it. Some humiliation things that he did to me where I was humiliated and people still talk about. And they think it's funny for some reason. I don't know. I guess it's that dark sense of humor. And I don't think it's funny. In fact, I've never laughed at what I've been through with him. But I don't talk about it either. So I can't really talk to my husband about it because he doesn't understand why it still bothers me if I have such a good marriage now. I don't understand why it's been popping up. I didn't think about him or these things in a very long time until somebody said that trigger word. And it was a word that my ex-husband used to call me. It's not a common word you would tell somebody when you're mad at them. It's a name calling. It's not one that I've ever heard anybody say back and forth. Not in a movie, not in no, I think I saw it in one movie actually recently. But like any other couple argument, I've never heard anyone get called this specific word. And this word was called to me. And it just, boom, PTSD all over. It was so weird. But because I was young in my age and I was very, He was my first for everything. I was fragile. I was very fragile. I was young, and I, really did love him. And the way he hurt me with the cheating, and I feel more mental abuse than anything. And there was physical from both of us. I'm not gonna say not me, but both of us. Man, it really messed me up in the head, especially the way he left me. The last time we broke up, the way he left me, and the stuff I had to learn on my own on why he left me, and never having the full detail. But I was having a conversation today, and I'm sorry that went into what that was 10 minutes of me just I was having a conversation with somebody today about, we're renewing our minds and stuff, and I was like, somebody told me, oh, you just got to let it go. You can't be bringing it up. You just got to move on with your life, which I have already done that. But all this pain surfaced. So I'm thinking I need to make peace with it and surrender it and do it the right way. And she agreed with me. And she pointed something out. She said, where do you see the God in all of this? And I said, She was like, there had to be, okay, so with my mom, giving me up for adoption and me having to be raised by my grandmother. She's like, where did you see God in that? I was like, okay, well, by her adopting me, I got to live with my grandma in a more stable home. And I think I would have been sexually molested and abused had I stayed with my mom because of all the stuff that was going on in that house. So I was saved from that. So I can see God right there, because I've mentioned this in other videos. I have a trust issue with God because of all the pain I've been through. I feel like, where are you? Well, there he was. He removed me from a situation and put me with my grandmother. And I only got to see bad things when I went to visit my mom. But it wasn't my whole life. I didn't have to live in it. I just got a taste of it. And I'm like, oh, that's why I don't live here. This is why I live with grandma. Okay, I get it. There's God right there. I saved you from that. Your grandmother raised you. Your childhood could have been a whole different other story. Okay, I see it. Where was God in my relationship with my first husband? Okay. I was telling her how he used to leave me in this apartment. There was no car. I didn't know how to drive anyways. We didn't have a phone. And he would argue with me on Thursday, and I wouldn't see him Friday or Saturday, and he'd come back either Sunday night or Monday after work. So for that weekend, I wouldn't have like food. There'd probably be some noodles or whatever, but like I didn't have food, and I didn't have money, and I didn't have a phone to call anybody. I didn't have no change to walk to a pay. I had nothing. And so I would be there all weekend. This happened a few weekends. I can't remember how long. And I remember being really hungry, sad, and crying and praying to God, saying, God, please bring my husband back to me. And I'm hungry. I'm really, really hungry. And I remember finding like some change. I was looking everywhere. And there was this little restaurant next to me. And all I had money was to buy an avocado. It was a restaurant, but they would sell you like an avocado. And I remember buying that avocado and just eating it with a piece of bread. And I was so thankful for it. But what got me not being depressed was there was this big, beautiful tree. And I'm going to show you that tree. I'm going to insert a clip of a tree that I just saw. And this is why I'm bringing up this tree. My husband was at Hobby Lobby, and I wanted to buy a new picture. I wanted to hang a new picture in the house. And when he was showing me on FaceTime the pictures, I saw him pass by this tree, and I started to cry when I saw that tree. I literally was holding it back, and I was like, oh my God, I need that picture. Like, I need that picture of and I'm just drawn, and I've been drawn to trees. He knows this since he met me. I've always been drawn to trees. And so he bought me this tree. Well, today, as I was talking to my friend, I was like, I used to get so depressed, and I'd be hungry, and I didn't have anywhere to go. And I couldn't like wander around and walk around the apartments because he had friends that lived in the apartments. And if they told him, oh yeah, we saw your wife just walking around, I would get in trouble. So what I would do was I would just open up my front door, and in front of my front door, there was boardwalks. So the apartments were called the boardwalks. So there's going to be boardwalks in the center of the apartments. Oh, they were so pretty. And there was these trees that they had there. It looked so pretty. It looked like the woods, like if you were out in the woods. So there's all these paths, this boardwalk of paths, and then these trees. And there was a tree right in front of my apartment door. And I used to get a pen and pad and I'd draw this tree. And I remember feeling peace, no pain. All I could see was this tree and a squirrel and birds, and the noises were so calming. And I was like, wow. And I would just escape for that moment. Like, oh, it was beautiful. And I would draw this tree and just get lost in that moment. And I'm like, that's why I love trees. I never put the two together. That's when I started to love trees, because I never noticed them before. I didn't care about trees. Like, it wasn't something that I, as a teenager, was, marveled by, or like, oh my goodness. It was that moment. And I tied it in with Christ now, because our Father was nailed to a tree. I just have a really huge love for trees, and those two things put together. I don't know if symbolically that's why the tree meant so much to me, because I didn't know much about Jesus at that time. I just would pray to him. But he was hung on a tree, and this tree brought me peace, and I just love trees. So I was like, wow. So I got that revelation today, just a while ago. And I said, okay, where was the God in that? Okay, he gave me peace with the tree. Not only that, there was always these little windows, because he was very, very controlling. I couldn't hang out with friends. I couldn't go out. I couldn't say, hey, I'm going to take the car and go out for a bit. No, we're always together. We're not separated. I'm not allowed to do anything. He could go out and go do what he wanted to do, but I couldn't. And if he found out, it was a whole nother story. So in the little times where he would break up with me and go with another woman, I had this little window. And in that window, I remember getting into boxing, not for the sport, but for, self-defense. And I took like self-defense stuff. And then in another window, I learned how to drive. And then in another window where he left me, I got a job with my aunt at a restaurant. And I learned to drive. I learned to protect myself. Well, I felt protected, and for me, it made me have confidence. And then I got a job. I learned how to work. And in that job, I learned how to, mess with food and clean and all that. So I was getting growth in those little windows where I wasn't with him. So I was like thankful for that, because at first I was like angry that he used to leave me. Like, I would do everything he'd tell me to do, and he would still leave me and go with another woman. But now I don't look at it with pain anymore. I'm looking at it with like, wow, thank you, God, for those windows. Thank you for every time he left me, because I got inner growth. I grew in those moments, and I was becoming an independent woman mentally, where I could tell myself, I don't need him. I could learn to drive. I don't need him to take me everywhere. I don't need him. I can get my own job, and I won't have to go hungry. I can have my own money. So now I don't look at it as traumatizing. Oh, you left me for this. Well, I was cheated on. No, it's like, hey, I grew. Those were the moments. Those were the best times, because it helped me become the independent woman. So when we had our last breakup, I wasn't like freaking out. Like, what was I going to do? I just kept doing what I was doing. I was working, and I had my own car, so like it was a blessing every time he left me. Now, this is just something I just received a while ago, so I'm still in shock. Like, it's a good shock. So now my past don't seem that traumatizing. Yes, he manipulated me, he'd hit me, he'd cheat on me, but I'm okay. I ended up meeting a good guy, an amazing guy, and I would have never met him had he not left me for when he got somebody else pregnant. That's what finally took, us not getting back together. He developed and made a family with somebody, and that saved me. And I used to look at that moment as like the worst thing that ever happened to me. And there's more, but I don't want to share too much. Because I don't talk about my past with anybody, so I feel like I'm already giving a lot. But, so I found peace in it. And then, me getting sick and God saving me and me walking off my deathbed when I shouldn't even be here right now, but I received a miracle. And it's documented at the hospital, so that's amazing. And then I got sick again and I went blind. So that made me feel like I had trust issues with God. But then I was like, okay, where was God in all these moments? Of course, when I was in the hospital, I got my miracle. And anytime I couldn't pray over my body, somehow I'd always have a Christian nurse to go in there. She would speak over my body when I was having convulsions or going through something. There was God. Whenever, and I wanted to say with my first husband, because I had a hard time letting him go. God used somebody. He sent somebody who I would have never expected that he would send. And it was a conversation I had with him that made me realize it would never work with me and my first husband. And I feel God sent him, because this was not somebody who would have gone and had that talk with me. And God always protected me in that way. Also, when I was sick, like I was saying, God would send somebody. When I had POTS and I was bedridden, and POTS was fully activated and I couldn't get up to walk, I remember just laying there and praying to God, send someone, because how was I going to get help? I don't leave the house to begin with. I deal with agoraphobia. And then POTS had me bedridden, so I couldn't stand or anything because I would faint. My heart rate and blood pressure would go too high, so it causes your body to faint, so you can't walk. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I'm like, how am I going to get help just laying here? So I started praying to God, and I said, Lord, send somebody. I don't know how you're going to do it, but make it to where they find me. Like, they need to come to my house. And then I ended up meeting a paramedic who had to come and started telling me about this certain paramedic here in town. And he had like this thing where he had like a list where he would go visit people. They're not his patients because he's not a doctor, but he would also come with doctors sometimes, and the doctors would evaluate the patients in this group. I don't know. And I wanted to be a part of this group. And they're like, yeah, they'll check on you and they'll help you, and they bring doctors to your house. And I'm like, how do I get a hold of him? He didn't know how. They just had heard of him. And paramedics would never, I think they would forget, because I'd give them my information. If you find out who this guy is, give him my information. Or if you find out who it is, can you come back and leave me a card? Like, please. I would never hear from them again. And I would cry. And every time I had to call an ambulance, because I'm at home by myself, bedridden, sometimes my blood sugar would drop dangerously low and I couldn't get up to get food. So I would call paramedics and they would come and make me food. That had to happen a few times. And there was this one time my blood sugar was like at a 35. So I called the ambulance because I couldn't get up. And they came in, made me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I saw two females walk in and I cried. And I ate my peanut butter and jelly. She said, sweetie, why are you crying? And I said, I keep praying for somebody named Buck. And when I saw two women, I knew that he wasn't one of you. And every time a paramedic comes, some of them don't know him and some of them know him, but I think they forget to come back and give me his information, or they're not giving him mine. And I said, I really wanted one of you to be Buck. And I cried. And the lady smiled at me and she says, wow, I believe God sent me here for a reason. And I looked at her and I said, do you know Buck? And she says, sweetie, Buck is on vacation right now. And guess who fills in for him every time he goes on vacation? And I said, who? She goes, me. I do his list when he's gone. I go visit all the people. And I know all about the program because I'm a part of it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And she says, and you know what? I won't. She says, I won't forget you. He will be here. I'm not telling you maybe. I'm not telling you, well, I'll talk to him. I'm telling you that you will be on that list because I will put you there. And we're going to fit you in. He has a tight list, but I bet you I'll fit you in. And I said, please don't forget about me. She says, I'm not going to forget about you. I'm making you a promise. He will be here soon when he comes back on vacation. You will meet him. That's a promise. And I said, okay. Well, 2 weeks pass by. I never see him or anything. And I'm like excited because I'm like, oh God, you did it. You did it. But then 2 weeks passed by and I think 3 weeks passed by and I never saw him. So I was like, she probably couldn't have done it. And I just thanked God because I said, you sent somebody, but everybody has free will. But I know you're working. And if she didn't do it, you'll send the next one. But I just know you're listening to me because that was, not a coincidence. The next day, there's a knock at my door like at 9 a.m. Nobody ever comes over here. And I just yell, come in. I can't get up. Come in. And some man walks in. And he says, hey. And I look at him and I'm like, who are you? Because he's not wearing like a paramedic uniform. He's dressed like in a nice shirt. And I just look at him. But then I see like a medical bag. He's holding a medical bag. And I was like, who are you? He goes, well, how do you not know who I am when you've been praying for me for so long? And I said, Buck, is that you? And he says, yeah. Let me tell you something. He put me in his program for a whole year. And he's the one who told me I had POTS because his daughter had POTS. So he started showing me how to get, not over it, but, he's like, I'm going to get you walking again. He goes, he did the POTS test on me where I stand, and he'd see how high my heart rate would go, like to 140, 150 just for standing. And my blood pressure would go really high. And he says, I believe you have POTS. And he goes, we need to get you some blood work, though. I couldn't make it to the doctor. I said, it's going to be hard. I can't even get up to walk. The last time I went in an ambulance, they had to put me in a, where they put you on the bed, the one that they can carry and walk you out. It's not the one that you roll in because they couldn't fit it in the house, but it's the other one. And I told them that's how they had to do me. And when I got to the hospital, I had to be in a wheelchair because I couldn't stand. And I had to lean forward in the wheelchair because I couldn't lift my head up. And he was like, okay, step 1, let's get you walking. He had me walking in 2 weeks. 2 weeks I was walking. He was telling me what to do, how to do it. And I did it and I was walking. He says, okay, we need to get you to a doctor. We need to see some blood work. We need to know what's going on with you. And I said, okay, that's going to be hard. I don't leave the house. And he was like, really? Is it that hard? And I said, I'm telling you right now, I don't leave the house. He's like, we're going to need to get you to leave the house. He tried to do a blood panel at the house for me because he could have did it, but I needed a doctor to sign off for it. I had no doctor to sign off for that, so we couldn't do it. So he finds me a doctor who he really loved and trusted, gets me an appointment. Not only did he get me the appointment, he says, I'll meet you there. I was like, what? He goes, I'll be there with you. I'm going to show up. I'm going to make sure you're okay. I'll work with you if you have a panic attack or whatever happens. I'm going to be right there with you. So I made it to my doctor appointment and he was there. And not only did he help me with that, I had gone blind. I was completely blind with cataracts at that time. And him helping me go to that doctor, that specific doctor, they got me in for cataract surgery. So I ended up having cataract surgery within like 6 months of 4 to 6 months of that first doctor's visit. And then I got vision back in my right eye. I still need my left eye, but I got my right eye. And I could see again. I had zero like if you know you've had cataracts, you can't see in the sunlight, and you lose color. So I was completely blind. It had to be dark, just to see the shadows, the silhouettes of things. The only color I could see was like yellows and browns, if if I was able to see. So he helped me with the cataract surgery. He was helping me through the whole thing, and he was just one of the biggest blessings. So there was God in that moment. And I'm like, God, you're all over my life. I was just choosing to make everything else bigger than you. I made the pain bigger than every time you came in to save me, every time you sent somebody, every time you helped me, every time you gave me revelation. I minimized it. So all I could see was the pain. All I could see was the hurt, the trauma, the trust that was broken. Everybody showed me I couldn't trust them. Everybody. But you always sent somebody. So I'm shifting it on how I view things. You know, God was always there. He was, and maybe not right when I prayed. Sometimes he was. Oh, do I have some stories? But sometimes it took time. Like, it took me forever to get to know Bud. You know, I was bedridden for almost a year. And if you had POTS, you know how horrible it is. You can't even shower. And if you have POTS or have had POTS, you know what I mean when I say it is hard for you to shower. I was even going to shave my head because my hair stunk so bad. And even when I did shower and washed my hair, when you raise your hands, your heart rate goes up. So when you stand up and you're walking with POTS, you're already at a high level. You could faint in the shower and you could really hurt yourself. And it would always feel like you can't even have hot water. You can't be in the heat. You can't raise your arms. So you have to hurry up and your heart's already beating. You could just feel it pounding in the shower. Your vision is in and out because of how high your heart rate and blood pressure is. So you're trying to hurry, and it makes it more, I'm talking, I was having 2-minute showers. I had to do whatever I could in that 1 to 2 minutes. And washing my hair would take up more of that time. I would do a quick wash as quick as I can do it, and my hair would still smell. And people were just shaving their heads because they couldn't lift their arms and they didn't want their, head still stinking. And I was really gonna do it. But it was hard. POTS was really hard. Even sitting down. On good days, I could just sit here. But even that could escalate a POT episode. And then so I'd have to lay flat on my back. Literally just lay flat on my back. And that's how I spent my days. And that was very depressing. And then being blind at the same time. Like, it just was horrible. But God was still in it. God was always there with me. And I need to shift my focus and quit looking at everything so traumatized. I was also thinking about books that I've read. And I know a lot of people have heard of the boy called It, or the boy named It. And he was abused by his mom. He was starved. He was hurt. She would put him in the bathroom and put like chemicals in there to make him pass out. She made him eat feces. Like, it was horrible. If you hear his testimony and you've already read it, you already know. But I remember I've read so many of his books. There's more books, and then I also read his brother's book. And I know that one of the books said, where he says, horrible things happened to me in my childhood. Things that no child should ever go through. But that's just a piece of my story, not the whole thing. I'm not going to let that moment control my whole life. It was a small part of my story. And that's it. I can't give it more than what it is. It was just a small part. And I was like, wow. And he went on to accomplish many things. And he's like, it's not going to dictate my whole life. I'm not going to let it hover around me like something weighing on my back, crippling me for the rest of my life. It's just a small part of my story. And that always stuck with me. Today, I needed this. I needed this healing. I needed this so bad, more than what I knew. I needed to forgive my mom and thank her, in my own way to God. And thank God for putting me with my grandmother, and thank my mother for having the love to let me go, because that had to be so hard. So hard that she never wanted to talk about it, but she did it. She did the right thing. She could have left me in those circumstances. I could have been really hurt, but she loved me that much to let me go. And I'm thankful to my first husband for teaching me a lot of things. Taught me good and bad. Had it not been for that type of relationship, I would have been probably manipulated by other men, because there's some stories there when I started dating, and I could just see right through them. I noticed some tactics, and I was like, wow, I'd have never had all that wisdom had I not been through what I've been through. So it saved me from a lot of future hurts. So I'm very thankful for that. I'm also thankful for every time that I was sick, and I hate being sick, but every time I've been sick, God has sent somebody, or God did something and sent help somehow. He was there. He was all over my story. So I want to tell you to do the same. If you're having trouble with your past, even if it was just to stare at a tree, that's all I had at that apartment. No money. I was hungry, living in fear, sad, feeling rejected because I knew what he was doing. And all I had was this tree, this beautiful tree, and the squirrel dancing around it, birds landing on it. My little escape. That is all I had, and I will forever be thankful for it. So find your little tree in your story and be thankful, because it took those small moments to keep you going. Look at it in a different way, because you're still here. And that pain, somehow, all the pain we've been through, somehow we learned from it and we grew from it. But if you're still making the same mistakes over and over, repeating it, like that type of pain, like still getting in another abusive relationship over and over again, you're not learning. You're not learning. You need to look at your situation and ask God, what is it that I'm missing? What am I not seeing here? Because for me, it may not be an abusive relationship over and over again, but it's the health issues. There's some health decisions that I'm making in my body that keeps resurfacing these certain health issues that I'm having. So there's something I'm not learning, and there's something that I'm like, okay, come on. We're going to need to get it together. What is it? What is it? What are my food weaknesses? Okay, sugar, fine. Okay, you need to understand that sugar makes you sick. And I need to quit with the sugar. What is it going to take? How many hospital runs? How many triggers to other illnesses is it going to have to take for me to finally realize sugar is the enemy? And maybe not so much, oh wow, sugar, but I abuse it. The amount, the portion, like it's got to start somewhere. I can't keep repeating the same thing and expecting that it's going to be different the next time. There's got to be something we're going to learn, but God is in it. And I know that with God, I can get through these things, because look at what I've already come out of. My past, my pain does not need to define my whole life. It doesn't need to. I'm going to do another episode. This is just me venting. This is word vomit. This is just me. Boom. I never talk about my past, and here I am putting it on a YouTube video in hopes that it might help somebody else. I don't know. I felt led to do it. This is not something I talk about. And I felt led to do it. So I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to do it. And I hope it blesses somebody and helps you find the God in your life, the God in that moment, the goodness in that moment, something that you may have overlooked. There's something that kept you going. There was a lesson that you learned out of it. And you don't need to be trapped in it. It doesn't have to have such a strong hold on you. It's something that happened. You can't change it. But it doesn't have to define who you are. It doesn't have to hold you captive, and you don't have to be in bondage to your past. We are free. We're not in that environment anymore. Maybe we're not in that house anymore. We're not in that relationship anymore. I've grown up and moved. You don't know. You're not there anymore, but in your mind you are, and there's freedom. There is freedom. So I'm going to end this. And Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord, I pray that there is if anybody is out there stuck in a certain moment that was never supposed to last this long, I pray freedom over these people. Lord, give them revelation. Give them revelation on the things that are holding them down. Give them some type of answer, some type of, I don't know, Lord, send somebody or give them the revelation. Or I pray as that they're seeking you, you meet them at that point, meet them at that pain and help them heal. And I want to thank you, Father, for the healing that you gave me today. And I thank you for the mother who loved me enough to let me go. And I thank you for the husband who showed me many lessons, but you also saved me from him as well. I thank you for all the things that I went through with my health. And somehow I made it on the other end. And I ask for more revelation on the things that I am continuing to do that I don't need to be doing anymore. And Lord, I pray for an extra measure of faith to quit doing them. An extra measure of strength to quit doing them. In Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord. Amen. See y'all on the next one. God bless.